Hello class. Hope all of you by now are working on your inflation project, and I thought I would do one to give you a little template to go by. I try really hard to make the instructions very clear, but I know because a couple of you sent me your work already that you've drifted away a little bit from what I'm actually asking. So I've prepared this one here. Now this one is way more complicated than what I've asked you to do. I've asked you to find 20 years of data, and what I have here is I have monthly data. Look at this. I got January 2011 all the way down to June 2021. So this is monthly data. I didn't ask you to do that. You have all you need to do is annual data. It'll be easier. The consumer price index that you need is already in course documents in Blackboard. You notice I have the CPI for every month, and I got that from the Bureau of Labor Statistics webpage, but you don't need to do that. The CPI that you need is already in course documents in Blackboard. I picked a couple of things that I wanted to be very different from each other. One was canned butter beans, and the other one was a 8-foot long 2x4. So in January of 2011, you could buy a can of butter beans for 83 cents, or you could get an 8-foot stick of lumber for $2.27. But by June of 2021, about 10 years later, that same can of beans would cost 98 cents, and that stick of lumber would be $5.98. All right, so that's our data. Keep in mind now that I have here two products, and it's monthly. What I've asked you to do is pick one product for 20 years, or two products for 10 years each, or 4 products for 5 years each. If you have more than one product, they should line up in different columns like this. The reason for that is so that you can line up the dates with them. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing I've asked you to do is calculate the inflation-adjusted price for the item you've picked. I had one student instead calculate the inflation rate for those prices. No, that's not what I want. I need the inflation-adjusted price for the item you've picked. So the way you do that is you just grab the price, so here it is right here, you multiply by the consumer price index in the present. That's this thing way down here, and I need to nail that thing down, so I nail that cell down with F4, and then I divide that result by the consumer price index in the year where I was, which was this one right here. Okay, so now if you don't remember how to do that, that's in the video on inflation. It's in all of the video assignments for week 5. All right, so when you adjust this price, this 83-cent price way back in January 2011 to the present, based on the inflation rate given by the consumer price index, it should be about $1.02. Then the beauty of Excel is I can just grab that thing and pull it down, and I can do that same calculation for every price I had. So here's the prices for a can of beans for every month as if its price had moved. Well, let's see how we're going to say that. So these are the actual prices of a can of beans, right? And these prices over here are that raw price, which in economics we call that the nominal price, adjusted for the inflation that's occurred. So for example, in April 2014, you could buy a can of beans for 89 cents, and adjusted for inflation, it'd be about $1.02. In May of 2016, right here, you could buy a can of beans for 90 cents, and that would have been about $1.02, adjusted for inflation. Let's get the last one. So in June of 21, you could buy a can of beans for 98 cents, and since the inflation rate from June of 21 to June of 21, no inflation has occurred because we're in the same month, the price would be 98 cents. All right, now let's do it for lumber. Now you might stop this video and think about what you need to do. You do it the same way you did canned butter beans. You just take the price of lumber, which was that thing right there, you multiply it by the consumer price index in the present. That's this number down here. You need to nail that number down with dollar signs, and then you you divide that number by the consumer price index in the year that you were in. So there we are. So this $2.27 stick of lumber back in January 2011, adjusted for inflation, should be about $2.80. Here comes the magic of Excel. There we go. So notice that the inflation in a stick of lumber has been way more than what's happened in a can of beans. So that stick of lumber now is $5.98, and it was only $2.80 before. So if your project is just one thing, then you're kind of done. Let's say you just did butter beans. So then all you would do is you would make a graph. All right, let's see if I can do that for you. You come up here to insert. You get this graph right here, the XY scatter plot. Some of you will be tempted to do this thing over here, the line graph. The line graph is not the way to do it because a line graph won't allow you to specify what's on the x-axis. You need to use the XY scatter plot, this thing right here. Now let's see if I can pick one. Where'd it go? Let's try again. Here they are. So I usually pick what's actually happening. I usually pick this thing, which is going to make jagged numbers. If you want, you can use this one over here that's a little bit stylized and makes the numbers a little smoother, makes the graph smoother. But I always use this because this is what's actually happening. So I pick that thing. All right, so here's my palette for my graph. Now I'm going to right click in here and I'm going to select my data. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put them down here, is I'm going to get the nominal price. Remember, nominal is that word we use in economics. It just means the raw data. The nominal price of butter beans. I'm going to abbreviate a little bit. Nominal price of butter beans, okay? Now my X values, that is the thing I want to go on the X-axis, are all these months and years over here. So I'm going to grab all this stuff. Okay, grab all that stuff. Now my Y values, I don't know why Bill Gates puts this piece of trash in here, but he always does. Get that out of there. Now the Y values, of course, are the nominal prices of butter beans, and that's this stuff right here. And now I'm done, so I'm going to OK that. I'm just going to stop for a minute, let you see what we have so far. So here's our graph. So this is what butter beans have done since whenever we started, January 2011. So they went up in price. They kind of stabilized, looks like, in about 2014. They fell from 2014 to 2017, and they've been running up since then. So that's butter beans. That's their nominal price. Now I'm going to right-click in here because I want to add something. Let's see if it'll let me. I want to select data again. Now I'm going to add something. This time I'm going to add the real. So real is the word that we use in economics to describe something that's been inflation adjusted. So the real price of butter beans, okay? So my X values, of course, are the same as before because I want to plot it along all this months I have here. But now the Y value, look at there what Bill did. I don't know why he does that. It's weird. So then the Y values are the inflation adjusted prices for butter beans, which is this stuff we got over here that we calculated. Okay, I'm going to OK that. OK this whole mess, and I'm going to come up here and let you see what we did. There we are. So if you've done it right, if you picked one product and you've done it right, it should be that the real price, that's this one up here, lays on top of the nominal price, which is down here. Now notice that Bill Gates kind of messed up my scale a little bit, so it's a little hard to tell. So if you don't mind, I'm going to take some of this out so that the differences between them will be a little more exaggerated. So the way you do that is you just click on this thing. You right click, and what you want to do is format the axis, okay? And it set the minimum value at 0. See the 0 down here? I'm going to set the minimum value at 0.8. 0.8, and that should do it. Let me okay this thing. Well, I thought I'm done. What happened? Here we go. Let's try again. 0.8. I don't know. Well, there we are. Let me get this out of the way. Now, it's this very same graph. It's just it's accelerated this vertical distance. So now you can tell pretty clearly this is the raw price of a can of butter beans, and this is the inflation adjusted price. I hope you can see that when you adjust for inflation, general inflation in the economy, the price of butter beans has been falling. Another way of saying that is, sure, the price of butter beans has gone up a little bit, but it's going up slower than the inflation rate. So once you net out the general inflation rate, the real price of butter beans has been falling for about 10 years. Okay, so you could do the very same thing with lumber. Now I'm going to delete this thing because I need the space. Now, some of you picked 2 products or maybe 4 products, and I've asked you to put in this extra step. So to compare butter beans with lumber, we need to start them at the same spot. And the way to do that is to just take the butter bean price. We're just going to take this price right here. And it's going to sound weird, we're going to divide by 1.02. That's its price, right? We're going to divide by that thing, and then we're going to multiply the whole mess by 100. Sounds weird. Oh, shoot, I shouldn't have done it that way. Okay, let's try again. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this number, all right? We're going to divide it by this cell right here by itself, but I got to nail that cell down. And we're going to multiply the whole mess by 100. Now notice what's happened is that this price, $1.02, is now moved to the index number 100. And with the magic of Excel, I can pull this down. And it's giving me a lot more numbers than I want. Let's just kind of fix that. Format. I don't need more than 2 digits, do I? Past the decimal. There we are. So now what you have here is the proportional changes in these numbers are exactly the same as what's going on over here. It's just we've moved this number from $1.02 to the index number 100. So down here, this was $1.03, so that'd be the index number 100.86 and so forth. So all I've done is I've just moved these numbers to start at 100, and I'm going to do the same thing for lumber so that then I can compare them. It's just called standardizing the data. All right, so for lumber, I'm just going to take this number, all right? I'm going to divide by that same number, this thing right here, but I got to nail it down so it doesn't move because I want to divide every one of them by that number, and then multiply the result by 100. And so now I have my lumber index. Boom. So I picked lumber because I hear in the news, in fact, actually I knew already, that lumber prices have just gone crazy. So look at this. So this index at 100, butter beans was indexed at 100. They're not so far apart. Actually, lumber is falling compared to butter beans way back in 2011. But you get to the present, look at the difference. Butter beans that are at the index number 95.7 and lumber is way up here. So now let's graph that. So we're going to graph it the same way we did before. We go to Insert, pick the XY scatter plot. You remember why you have to pick that thing? Because it allows you to put the time units on the horizontal axis. Now I got confused because look what Bill Gates did. He's constantly trying to think about what you want to do, and he always gets it wrong. I don't know why they do that. They should ask me, and I would tell them. So get all that mess out that Bill does, and now let's start. So we're going to right-click in here. We're going to select data, and then we're going to put in butter beans. I'm just going to abbreviate. Now my X values, again, are these years over here. And the Y values, look, get that mess out of there. The Y values now are this indexed butterbean column we have. That should do it for butterbeans. Now, before I go and look at it, I'm going to go ahead and do lumber. So we're just going to call this one lumber. And the X values, again, are this stuff. And the Y values are the index number for lumber. Now, if I've done this right, they should start in exactly the same spot. Let's see if I did. I hope I did. They should start together. Yeah, look, they did. They started together. This is butterbeans, and this is what lumber's done. If you wanted to, you could fix this again, like see how it started at 0, and you could start it at like maybe 50. Go ahead and do that. Format axis. Change the minimum to 50. Oops, 50. All right. And then you could do the same thing for this side. You notice that it starts in June 09. We don't even have that. We could start it in January 11, but I'm not going to bother. So here it is. See this thing? So now you can see that the relative prices for butterbeans and lumber have really diverged. They start, by math, they started together in this dot right here, which was January, if I can get it to show up, January 2011. Actually, lumber got cheaper than butterbeans for a little while, and then it jumped up, and then it started to fall again. They were almost the same again, and then it jumped up. So lumber's been dancing all over the place, and lately it's really shot up. Okay, so I hope this little video helps you, and if something is confusing, you should text or call me. All right, everyone, good luck.